I'm really not.
Are you gonna make a little love, or are you gonna get down tonight?
Get down tonight. Only if you bring in Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Alright, so we're doing 91, right?
We are.
Okay. Clapping it?
Sure.
Nice! Hello, welcome once again to Editing the Academy. My name's Daryl.
I'm Laura.
And Laura, we should probably acknowledge that this is a redo because Daryl fucked up and lost the files.
Things happened. We're just going to say things happened to our last recording of the films of 1991 that were nominated for Best Picture in 1992.
So this one's probably going to be a lot shorter because we can't necessarily recreate the magic of the last one because it was, of course, the best one we've ever done.
We were so charming and brilliant. It's just sad it is lost to posterity.
200,000 subscribers easily we would have gotten based on this one episode alone.
Yeah, I'm looking at the movies. I don't know that that's actually a true fact. We cannot lie to our 7 viewers.
So speaking of, what are the movies that we're talking about this time?
The movies are Bugsy, J.F.K, Prince of Tides, Silence of the Lambs, and Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. So I'm going to do a new thing with the other notables. I'm going to give you the top 5 grossing movies of that year.
Okay.
And then some other ones that deserve to be mentioned. So the top 5 in order, most to least, were Terminator 2 Judgment Day,
Sure.
Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, Silence of the Lambs, City Slickers, and then Beauty and the Beast came in at number 5.
That was a fun year in the movies. Yeah, Kevin Costner was very highly around at that time.
He was. Other notables were The Fisher King, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Jungle Fever, Hamlet, the...
Mel Gibson version.
Thank you very
You're
kindly.
welcome.
Barton Fink, Backdraft, The Commitments, Delicatessen, which is a French film, which is awesome, Defending Your Life, Soap Dish, and My Own Private Idaho, and L.A. Story. Again, I always go alphabetical. Do you want to start with Beauty and the Beast?
Let's start with Beauty and the Beast.
All right, Beauty and the Beast, directed by Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise, from a screenplay written by Linda Wolverton and produced by Don Hahn. Beauty and the Beast stars the voices of Paige O'Hara, Robbie Benson. Supporting cast was Richard White, Jerry Orbach, David Ogden Stiers, Jesse Cordy, Rex Everhart. Just a great name. Sounds like a porn name. It really does. Joanne Worley and Angela Lansbury. It was nominated for Best Original Score, Best Original Song, Best Sound, and it won for Best Original Song. There were 3 from that were nominated: Be Our Guest, Beauty and the Beast, and Belle. And Beauty and the Beast is the one that won.
All right. My fun fact is that most of the statues and gargoyles that you see are earlier versions of the Beast. They were on the cutting room kind of floor. They made it to the cutting room floor or to the gargoyles on the castle. Another fun fact, this one's a new one to you, was Robbie Benson. Anyone of my age adores and loves Robbie Benson. Every word that he spoke as the Beast was altered to be very growly, and they had like actual animal sounds to amplify the voice, except for one song he sang because he sang it in his head, and it was his thoughts. And so it was the real soft Robbie Benson, real Prince voice.
Okay. Why would I know Robbie Benson? What is he?
Ice Castles, Slapshot.
Teen Heartthrob kind of
Teen
guy?
Heartthrob kind of thing. Definitely from Ice Castles, and he is now, actually, he just had a part on Severance, but he's mostly gone to directing.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. A lot of actors will do that. They'll go on and do like a lot of TV directing and things.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to come out and hit this one hard and heavy. As you have well know by now, I am not a Disney animation fan, not a fan of Disney as a company overall. This one was no exception.
Daryl has a bias against Disney.
He does. So my biggest problem with this one is the animation of this one is kind of choppy. It doesn't flow like a lot of other films do. You think of some of the other animation studios that were out at the time with like the Rats of Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim, The Secret of Nim, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Don Bluth. Those were a little bit more flowy, and some of the other animations that was out. This one just seemed very choppy to me, so I was not a big fan of the overall animation style of this one.
Okay, and I actually really liked it, and part of the reason is because I actually agree with you that I think it was probably not as flowy and not as kind of technical. The technical achievement was not that it flowed together as well, it was what they were doing to lift the actual cells one by one.
Got it.
So I agree with you, the movie itself maybe wasn't as as flowy, didn't flow together as well, but that's because the animation was lifted so much at its core that they probably were not ready to pull it all together.
Okay.
For instance, I loved the scene with the Beast and the bad guy on the parapet when they were fighting and the rain coming down, and I just thought that was like beautifully done and things you hadn't seen in animation up to that time.
Disney's always been good. They've always had very high quality animators themselves, and the direction and the angles they choose to actually show things from,
Yeah.
they do get pretty creative in that. Like the direction of the film is actually, for Disney films, is usually really good.
Yeah.
It's just the physical animation that I have the problem with in this one. But you're right, like the way that they were able to use shadow and light and then change angles from up and down and below, so you got all sorts of scenes in that scene in particular, the direction of it was amazing. It really was.
One other fight that I think that we had about this movie, so remind me if I'm correct, is my bias is I loved this movie. I thought it was beautiful. I thought they had done some really amazing techniques you hadn't seen before. I'm not going to say never, but I don't necessarily think that an animated picture should be nominated for Best Picture because of the actors and the emotional performance that they give in real life. So I am biased against it. I think what I heard you say was that you're fine with it someday, just not this film.
Yeah, I really do enjoy well-crafted animation. The last 20 years we've seen an explosion of animation, and it's no longer just like Transformers, G.I. Joe kind of Saturday afternoon cartoons or something. So I think the animation overall has stepped up. What always matters to me is the quality of the animation and the story that they're actually telling. Can they do that in an interesting way? I don't just watch anime or animation just to watch it. It has to be something I can engage in like anything else. And this one, I just couldn't. I just couldn't.
No, I agree I love animation and I think that they can do it very well, and I think that there's a special category at the Oscars for Best Animated Film, and that's where it needs to stay because there are so many other pieces to a film that have to be created, and maybe as we get more towards CGI, that's not going to be a thing. More towards AI, it may actually be too close together, but back in 1991, I don't necessarily think this should have been nominated, but I think it's a beautiful film, and it's fun, and it's got good music, and it's got a nice story, and all the things.
I do agree with you that I think for an animated film to get nominated, to rise to such a high level, that the film itself, every aspect has to be so much more than just a regular film would be.
Right.
I will grant that, but I think it can be achieved. I just don't necessarily think that it has as of yet. This was the first to be nominated.
It was.
Right? Has anything since been nominated that was animated?
I want to say yes, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I think something else was.
I think a Pixar film was, but
Probably.
I can't remember what.
Yeah.
Like,
I wouldn't
Pixar
be
knows
surprised.
what they're doing. Unfortunately, they're not owned by Disney, but whatever.
True.
I will give props to one thing in particular. Disney does do a good job of mixing animation styles, at least in sections.
Very true.
The intro with the stained glass, I thought was very well done. I did enjoy the animation of that, and it was obviously in contrast to the rest of the film. And Disney does do a good job of mixing animation styles every once in a while, so I'll give props there. But overall, I don't think this should have been nominated, and I did not enjoy it.
I enjoyed it tremendously and did not think it should be nominated. Okay.
All right, let's move on to Bugsy.
All right.
Oh, God, what a bad year. Bugsy, directed by Barry Levinson, written by James Toback, stars Warren Beatty, Annette Bening, Harvey Keitel, Ben Kingsley, Elliot Gould, Bebe Neuwirth, apologies, and Joe Mantegna. Was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, Best Score. Won for Costume Design, Art and Art Direction, and nothing else, which I was quite pleased with. Go with the facts.
Fun fact is that in this movie there's a scene where Bugsy follows his friend George Raft, who was a true actor back in this time, to the studio, watched him film a movie scene.
Yep.
That was actually true, kind of step by step. That actual scene he watched was a scene in the movie called Manpower, and it was a scene between George Raft and Virginia Hill, who was obviously the character played by Annette Bening.
So that was a real scene from a real movie that they were reenacting?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Did a nice job. Can I start with this one?
You can.
I hated this movie. I hated it so much. I hated everything about it. I didn't hate everything about it. I thought Annette Bening was amazing. She vamped it up. She was very cool. She wasn't campy. She looked beautiful. She was stylish. And she was in an entirely different movie than everybody else in the picture.
Yep.
And I think this just had the stamp of Warren Beatty's name on it that made it popular, because what were they thinking?
Yeah, I think it was a Warren Beatty vanity project.
Mm-hmm.
I think the film suffers tremendously from his adoration
Yes.
of Bugsy. And that does not make for a good film when you are so close to something and love it so much and want to put it all in such a positive light, which, let's be honest, Bugsy
He was gangster.
Yeah, and he was put in a very glowing positive light. That it does not allow for the things that should be in a film, which is a little bit of conflict, a little bit of drama with things. It was the Warren Beatty show saying, it was like Warren was a kid again playing cowboys, and he was just like, I just love playing Bugsy, so film me being Bugsy.
Yep.
And
there's no gray to him whatsoever.
Nope.
This is just a fun guy to play. And look how nuanced he is, except for he didn't play him with any nuance whatsoever.
Yeah. So from start to finish, I had so many problems with this. I'd actually seen this when it came out in the theater by myself because I like a good gangster film.
Sure.
And I walked out being incredibly upset and angry at the fact that I had wasted the time. So when this one came up again, I was like, let's hope that this one will have aged well. And I was just being a pretentious 20-something at the time.
No.
Turns out, well, I was a pretentious 20-something, but that had nothing to do with this film.
But you were right on the money.
I am.
There's one scene, so like Ego from start to finish, literally, the opening credits were large names that took forever to get across the screen.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be I think it was a 10-minute opening credit montage. And then there were some scenes in there that were made to be artistic. You know, it's like they were fighting behind a sheet so that you could see them in the shadows. And then there was another scene with a trumpeter being superimposed over him walking down a lonely street. And it was just like, here's our artistic moment. But the thing that bothered me the most was the scene where he was supposed to be like violent and you know this you know, making other people crawl to him, and you saw Annette Bening and she was kind of like turned on by this, like, oh look, this guy has power and violence, and it wasn't that at all. I mean, I thought that he was like a whining performative bully with no power whatsoever. I wasn't afraid of him. I didn't see that he conveyed any power, and he was supposed to be that big imposing guy, and it fell so flat for me.
Even the story, the way they kind of structured the story, like it starts out that Bugsy is a name, a localized name, but a name. So then he goes out and the quote unquote slow decline, his obsession, that doesn't really work the way they set it up. Like this film couldn't decide what it really wanted to be. It told a story.
Sure.
I don't think the story that it was telling was a very good story. I don't think it was written well. I don't think it was handled well. So the entire journey of watching this was just, I kept waiting for something to happen and develop and get better, and it never did. It just got progressively worse.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Even to the last shot, which was, or close to the last shot, it was Annette Bening finds out that he's dead. Spoiler alert, Bugsy dies. So she finds, and then the camera just stays on her face for like three to 4 minutes.
Yep.
Watching her take it in and sing it in and the emotions. And she's a wonderful actress, but that's too long.
Yeah. This was just highly problematic from the beginning all the way to the end. There were so few moments that were even watchable. Annette was great. I kept waiting for her to be in another scene because she was the only thing I could latch onto.
Yes, she was great.
Even the supporting cast, like Joe Mantegna was Joe Mantegna.
He's great.
He was what he always is. But even someone like Harvey Keitel, and I'm sure it was the direction, they didn't perform the way that we're used to, like the quality, the intensity. He was almost a comedic character, but not. Like,
Yeah.
they had a great cast in this.
Elliot Gould was the same way, I think.
And nobody was utilized the way they want. Like,
and Kingsley.
yeah, he was watchable. I did enjoy when he was
Yeah.
on screen. He knew his assignment. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. But yeah, it was just so many missed opportunities.
So definitely do not really rush out to watch this movie.
No.
Okay.
All right, thanks
Next.
for helping me rip that one apart. That was great.
Happy to.
I have J.F.K.
Alrighty.
All right, J.F.K. Written and directed by Oliver Stone. Screenplay was adapted by Stone and Zachary Sklar from the books On the Trail of the Assassins by Garrison and Crossfire: The Plot That Killed Kennedy by Jim Mars. Those two books I will put up front. Those are conspiracy novels, and that is entirely what this movie is based on.
Yeah.
Is the conspiracy.
I would say they're not novels. They are nonfiction to the people who wrote them,
Yes.
but they are conspiracy theories. Yeah.
So this stars Kevin Costner, Kevin Bacon, Tommy Lee Jones, Laurie Metcalf, Gary Oldman, Michael Rooker, J.O. Sanders, Sissy Spacek. Was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Tommy. Best Screenplay based on material previously produced or published. Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. It did win for Editing and Cinematography, which, okay, fine, sure. Interesting fun facts.
All right, 2 facts. The first one is that Jim Garrison himself played Chief Justice Earl Warren in the movie, in 2 scenes in the movie, so he was obviously very involved in and thought highly of the movie. And the second one is, in real life, Jim Garrison lost a bid for district attorney in 1973 to a man named Harry Connick Sr.
Oh, Harry Connick
Junior's daddy. Yep.
Oh, that's
Yes.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, in my estimation, the real start of Oliver Stone playing with history, which
Sure.
he does in a lot of his films later on. If you watch this film as here's a presentation of a theory, I think you will have a good time with this. If you watch this for this is exactly what happened and I'm going to get the answers, you're going in misguided, because this
Fair.
film is not that.
I think that's totally fair. And I also think that it's kind of, to me, there's 2 different ways you watch the movie. One of them is it's really interestingly put together. Like he does a lot of different techniques, a lot of like the first, I think we talked about it before and we'll talk about it again. The first 20 minutes, 30 minutes is really interesting. It introduces the characters, the event, where is everybody? And it cuts back and forth throughout the movie to different events, and I like the storytelling style. And then it's the story itself, and that last 40 minutes in the courtroom is just Kevin Costner talking at you and sharing this conspiracy theory as if it's fact, and I found it unwatchably boring.
Yeah.
And I love Kevin Costner, and I think he did a very good job with what he was given, but that monologue was painful to sit through.
It really was, and oh my goodness, so sorry. It is kind of 2 different movies. You have all of the setup and the exploration and discovery of information.
Yeah.
And then you have a courtroom drama.
Yes.
And the courtroom drama is like an LA Law 42-minute long thing. And they are different. And all of the setup to get to that courtroom drama does not get paid off in the courtroom drama. Because the entire film is setting up, gathering all the information to get to those scenes at the end, so that we, the audience member, are explained in nauseating detail the theory of what they believe to have happened.
Right.
And the payoff just doesn't work.
Well, and even the storyline is, like, even the courtroom drama is about this one random guy who we have barely understood what his tangential role is. And we're setting him up for a conspiracy to commit murder of the president. There's not enough to even tangentially tie him to any of that stuff that he is talking about. And so the fact that he was found, not guilty, of course he was, because there's no evidence. I will say one of the pieces I enjoyed tremendously was Donald Sutherland and the interview with him of kind of this dark shadow, deep throat kind of guy. And Donald Sutherland, I forget until I see him in a movie how much I love him.
He has a certain this is going to sound contradictory, but I do believe it's true. He has this laid-back intensity about him.
Yes, no, that's perfect. I agree with that. Yeah.
And he brings it to every character he's done, even his more comedic roles, like when he was in MASH and Ted and Alice or whatever that one was. Even those comedic roles, he still has that kind of laid-back intensity. He can turn on charm very quickly, but he can also pull it back. And yeah, so you're right. Every time I see him in something, I'm like, oh, thank you, because I know that you're going to give me a quality performance.
Absolutely true. Yeah, he is a quality performer, and yeah, like Ordinary People, I think that he was just spectacular in that because of what he gave. And this one is the same thing. He's not giving a lot, but he's giving everything also at the same time.
This one I think suffers from writing. It suffers from organizational structure, sure, but I think it also suffers from the writing. An easy example of that is John Candy's character, who, one of his only serious dramatic roles that he ever did, he did a fine job of it. Like, I'm not taking away from his acting in it, but the writing of his character was so tropey and so stereotypical and just bad that he couldn't bring anything to it. Like, it was just bad. And there were so many moments like that. The fight scene with Sissy when they're having their argument. So horribly written, so horribly written. Like the outside of the conspiracy theory aspect and that you don't get the payoff, just the writing of this overall was not up to snuff.
The Sissy Spacek role really bummed me out because I love her. I think she's a great actress, and she came in here to be nagging wife through 3/4 of the movie. Well, actually, most of the movie, and then in the last 10 minutes, she looks up and sees, "Oh, my dear husband, I see where you have been doing this, and now you were right and I am wrong." And it's just that is a tropey role, and she's too good to put her in such a tropey role.
Yeah, a lot of the characters were very stereotypical. They served their one function. You didn't get a lot of depth. Even the guy who ends up quote unquote betraying, that's on their team and quote unquote betrays them, that was kind of mishandled and bungled. You could see that you knew someone was going to. They were pointing that it was going to be him, and then he does, and then of course there's forgiveness. Like all of it was just stereotypical for such a non-stereotypical story.
Exactly. I've got a question. You may not know the answer to it, but we are at a time in history where literally just a couple weeks ago, Clint Hill passed away, who was the Secret Service agent who climbed on the back and pushed down Mrs. Kennedy. He literally just died last week. And so they've been showing a lot of the Zapruder film on TV. And because I had literally just watched J.F.K., I'm like, I think Oliver Stone enhanced and added things to the Zapruder film. Do we know if he took it as was, or if he added some Oliver Stone? See, it's a little clearer, it's a little crisper, it looks different to me. So
that is a good question. If
this
anybody
could be
knows,
Laura's conspiracy theory.
if anybody does know, let us know. Obviously, I don't know if he altered any of the footage. This is also he does latch on to the multi-media kind of thing in this. Much more so. We saw it a little bit in his last film, and it's much more here, and then we'll get obviously more in Natural Born Killers. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had edited or clarified or had hyper focus on an area.
Exactly. I didn't do the work to go check it out or even Google it, but I would be interested. All right.
Unfortunately, this was I'm all up for a good conspiracy theory. Throw it in, but handle it well, and I don't think that was this film.
I kind of equate it to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in that took the history in an entirely different direction and had an actual different ending, and everyone knew going in that was what Tarantino was going to do. And I thought that was well done, and this one not so much.
I agree.
Okay, what's next?
I have Prince of Tides.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, Prince of Tides, directed and co-produced by Barbara Streisand, from a screenplay written by Pat Conroy and Becky Johnson. Based on Conroy's 1986 novel, stars Streisand and Nick Nolte, Blythe Danner, Kate Nelligan, Jerome Krabbe, Melinda Dillon, George Carlin, and Jason Gould. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor for Nick Nolte, Best Supporting for Kate Nelligan, Best Screenplay, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Score. Did not win a thing, which I know, shocker, complete shocker. Interesting or fun facts?
I'm literally just putting a fun fact together now that I just thought of, which is Elliot Gould, Barbara Streisand, and Jason Gould, their son, were all in Best Picture nominees this year.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, so just putting that together. But the ones that I had prepared were, first of all, that Nick Nolte was named People's Sexiest Man Alive that year because he was the, like, good-looking, sensitive man. And also, this is one of 4 of Pat Conroy's books that were made into movies. I think the greatest of which is The Great Santini, so please go out and watch The Great Santini. I love Pat Conroy. I love all of his books. I've read them all, and that is where you need to go spend your time. Other fun fact, which is not really a fun fact, but I'm gonna kick it off if you don't mind,
Absolutely.
which is I loved this movie when I first watched it when it came out in 1991. I think part of it was because I loved the book so much. And I thought it was a great translation. And I was so sad to watch it for this podcast and realized I did not like it and I didn't think it was very good. And it made me super sad.
Doing research on this one because I had a very hard time with this movie, so I had paused it and I was like, I'm going to go see what other people are saying to see if this is me. Because that does happen every once in a while. I might have missed something or, pay attention to this aspect, whatever. So I was doing some deep diving, and that is the overwhelming thing that people were saying about this movie is, don't like the movie, don't take that out on the book. Go
Absolutely
read the
not.
book. Go read the book over and over again. The book is so much better. Go read the book. So I'm with you. I
Yep.
feel your pain. I did not read the book, so I don't know, but I'm going to probably put it in my little checkout card at some point to go check out because I had such a problem with this.
I think the best parts of the movie are taken directly from the book
Okay.
and don't work in the movie. So one of which is the voiceover.
Yep.
So there's a ton of voiceover in this movie, and all of it is the prose from Conroy's book, and it's beautiful prose, and it should have been seen and acted and shown, not told. So that kind of bugged me. And the other piece was, and I truly did love the character of Tom, played by Nick Nolte, and I think he did a fine job of it. I don't think it was great, but I loved his character. He is this, Southern man, but he's not a Southern bumpkin. He loves literature and the arts, and he loves his wife, and he is a great girl dad, and he is comfortable in a room of gay men in Manhattan, and he is like all of these wonderful things, and he is non-communicative, and he will not share with his partner, and he is cheating on his wife, and like he's a perfect example of a gray character that we didn't get in Bugsy.
Yeah.
He's got great qualities, he's got really terrible qualities, he's a true person.
Yeah. My biggest problem with this movie is, and you helped me understand it better, but I still have a problem with it, is that I don't buy the premise of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she has to talk to him because his sister's in a coma initially, I can get that. But it then changes so much throughout, and I don't think the changes are handled well enough. I'm sure it's probably done way better in the book. But I couldn't buy the premise. The premise was just constantly getting in my way of, okay, you have to talk to him, he's her memories, etc. I get it, but I just think that premise was handled so poorly in this film. It could have been done so much better, and I kept struggling and butting up against, I don't buy the premise.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that when you go into a movie, it's like you either buy the conceit or you don't.
Yep.
And sometimes you just can't get past it.
Yep.
And it sounds like you couldn't. I again, maybe it's because of what I'm bringing with me from the book, but I was able to buy that in the early 90s, this psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever she was, is trying to help this woman who can't remember the traumas of her past and told her to, and basically go see my brother.
Yep.
He is my memories. He'll tell you what happened to me.
And I think that's a great setup. I like the setup. I do like the premise. I just don't think the film utilized and capitalized on that premise and explored it well enough to make this movie work.
Yeah.
And I think, and honestly, I'm laying the blame of that at Barbara's feet. I don't think she had the right sensibility to be able to bring that out.
Yeah.
Even, like, she's fine as an actress. She's actually a pretty decent actress.
Yeah.
But the directorial aspects of this, I just don't think it was in the right hands. I think somebody else could have done that much better.
Some of the choices made it did kind of flummox me, and just also there's the whole piece of the romance. There's no build up.
Yeah.
They have an adversarial relationship, and then all of a sudden in his voiceover he starts talking about her perfume making him dizzy. Like you've seen nothing to show that he is attracted to this woman or that he's even interested in her, except for the fact that he's going to be.
Right. That's the weird
It's
thing.
on the poster.
The weird thing about the film is it telegraphs the fact that they're going to get
Oh,
together,
totally.
but gives you no information on the build
Why?
of how or why.
Yeah.
Like, you know it's happening, but there's no information to actually help you down that path. You just know it's going to happen, so then it just does. Suddenly
Yeah.
they're making out in the hallway. Like,
Yeah, how did that all come about?
Yep.
Exactly. And I don't remember the story well enough to know if they changed it at all from the story, from the book to the movie. But also they were both totally blameless because both of their spouses were cheating on them first. So,
Yes.
you know, it's all good. I will say, I thought Jason Gould did a really nice job in this. I think he played petulant teenager who's pissed at his parents pretty darn well.
and that may have been he's just drawing on real life
We
at that moment.
we don't know how real and true to life that was. My mother is forcing me into this even though it is not of my interest. Interesting storyline, just saying.
Couple things I did want to talk about again, because like we've said many times now, we did this before. Bab's character in this is just way too stereotypical for me, and the moments that I thought that could have developed her a little bit more, given her something to work with, the overprotective mom, the fact that her husband was cheating on her, she has a throwaway line, like that's the lady who's sleeping with my husband, like
Yeah.
all of these things that could have been helped develop her character were just stereotypes, and there was nothing really, there was no substance to them, they just were. Did not like that.
Babs, we're
Yeah.
that close to her now?
Uh,
Apparently you are.
I grew up with Barbara Streisand
Okay,
because
alright.
my mom was such a fan. She
Love
was
that.
always on in the house. So yes, I will call her Babs.
I will say, so I finished her biography, I just finished her autobiography, and it could have used some editing. It was 800 something pages long. Just read shares. I cannot wait for part 2. Part 1 was that long. We're getting to part 2, and it's released in November, and I'm going to be the first one buying it.
Wow.
So, just throwing that out there. But yeah, it was just a little too self-congratulatory.
The second thing that I want to talk about, and you did help me understand this a little bit more, but I still have it as an issue, that the mother character initially is cast as a villain. Like when you first see her, she's they're not getting along. We'll just say that.
Fair.
And as we get Mom's backstory, that villainy, I think, is unjustified because of the things that she was going through back when they were young, the abuse, etc. So I didn't like the fact that she was cast as a villain until the end, when you realize, no, she kind of did make a choice and abandoned her family because she went after what she wanted. So I'll give that part of it, but the way that was structured, I thought was misleading until you get to the end and realize, okay, she's kind of a bad person for abandoning her family.
And I think that it was intended to do that, for you to wonder, what is this all about? And I would say it's not actually even the abandonment that makes her the villain, it is the re-traumatizing of her children by saying this never happened.
Oh, yeah.
It never existed. That event, that was a huge trauma for you. We are not only going to kill these men, we are going to bury them on our land and never tell your father, and I'm going to make you accessories to, whatever happened here, and we shall never speak of it again. So I think the trauma she caused with her children was the villainy there.
I would agree.
So, but yeah, I thought the performance was spectacular. I think Kate Nelligan, I think she and the father were both really interesting characters, and well done.
Everybody acted well enough, if not incredibly well, in the film. It's just the structure and the way it was handled, I don't think makes for a good film. Like, you can have amazing performances in something, but the overall structure of this just does not work.
Yeah, George Carlin even.
Second time he played, well, this is the first, but then he plays a gay character again later on.
Where?
Geely?
I don't think I've ever seen that. That's
It's a horrible movie, so bad.
That's the Jennifer Bennifer.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a interesting story. I think Nick Nolte did a good job. I think Barbra Streisand's performance was very good, but the structure and the way it was laid out, and the fact that it just told us everything we needed to know, and now these two are in love.
Yeah. It was a lot of statements of things, not the development of things.
Exactly. So, all right,
moving on to the last, Silence of the Lambs.
Dun, dun, dun.
Directed by Jonathan Demme, written by Ted Talley, adapted from Thomas Harris' 1988 novel, stars Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, and also had Scott Glenn, Anthony Heald, and Casey Lemons. was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Film Editing, and Best Sound. And it won everything except for film editing and sound. So it was the big winner that year.
Yes. All right, so this movie is the only one of the 5 to be on the AFI list. It is currently number 74. It moved down slightly. It was originally put on as number 65. So
Okay.
creeping down, bottom half. It is also the most recent and only the 3rd movie to win the Big 5 in the Oscars,
Okay.
which is Best Picture, Director, Screenplay, Actor, Actress.
Okay. Has there been one recently that did that?
No, this is the most recent one. So the
Okay, you did
the
say
most
that.
recent of 3.
Yep.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest
Oh, yeah.
was the second, and It Happened One Night back in the 30s with Clark Gable. It's a Frank Capra movie. It's phenomenal. It's really, really good. You should see it.
Oppenheimer came close but didn't do all 5, right?
No actress.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So this one was the one that I was most trepidatious about going through because I remember really enjoying this film,
Mhm.
and as we've seen going through a lot of these reasoning, many of
Prince
them,
of Tides.
yeah,
Yes.
many of them do not hold up again. I was incredibly happy when it did. This film, I do believe, even 20 years from now, it will seem much more dated 20 years from now, but I still think as a film, it will absolutely still hold up.
Agreed.
The way everything is structured, the way everything is brought together, the tension, the release, just everything about it is well crafted, particularly in comparison to the other ones that we've seen.
Fair.
The only thing I really don't like about this movie is the opening credits. They are so 1990s, and it's like you're going into almost like an action movie kind of thing.
Okay. I didn't notice that, but I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, they like the opening credits don't fit with
Yeah.
the film itself, but that's fine.
I have the same worry going into this. I haven't seen it since it first came out, and so this is only probably my second watch, and it absolutely held up. I liked
Yeah.
every part of it, and we can kind of dig into that a little bit. The one thing that is hard about this movie is once you know what's going to happen, and once you know who the people are, and especially the twist of she is in the killer's house while the FBI has gotten a bad tip, and they are somewhere else. Once you know that, you lose a lot because it's a thriller,
Right.
and so it's how they solve the thriller that is critical. So it's really just the surprise element that makes it not a fantastic rewatch, but not because of any part of the movie.
Right. It's kind of like the Sixth Sense. Once you know the ending of the Sixth Sense, you can't never have that experience again. So the next time you watch it, you watch to see does it actually hold up? Does it actually work? And so that's what I did with this one. I had forgotten though, so I got caught in it about the twist. I'd completely forgotten about it, so I was with it. It was only like 45 seconds in where I was like, oh, okay, she's at the wrong house. I got it. All right. Okay. Then it came back, but I didn't forget. The way everything is crafted in this, the pacing, I think, is one of the biggest strengths of this film. You get just enough. They never linger on anything too long. You're given information. The scenes tell you exactly what you need to be able to move on to the next scene. Like, the pacing of this is one of the strongest elements of this film.
I agree.
Which so many films get wrong. They're like J.F.K. The pacing was just completely wrong.
It was kind of a bad roller coaster. Yeah.
So that is one of the big strengths of this movie. And then, of course, there are the performances.
And the performances is when you're thinking about Anthony Hopkins and him being toe-to-toe with Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
And those scenes were electric, the chemistry between the two of them. And, again, there's tons of different kinds of chemistry. This is not a romantic chemistry, it's just two amazing performances, fully electric. I loved the way she played this character because she knew when to flirt with people, she knew when to be tough with people, and that was all the character coming through of, here's where I need to play it this way, here's where I need to play it that way, here's where I need to lie. And Jodie Foster continues to be one of my favorite actresses, if not my favorite, because she is a natural performer. It's like she's having a conversation with another person.
I've seen interviews with her, and she's gone through many phases. Now, like the last 10 years, she said she feels much more comfortable. It's not about her, it's about what can I give.
Yeah.
But even back then, talking about like when she went for The Accused and this film, people have talked about her being a very giving actress, so that when you are in a scene, she's not just reciting her lines and then moving on. Like, she's in the moment, she's there with you, she's reacting to you, she's giving you something to react to, which is just the definition of great actor, actress.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Naiad that she's in?
Yep.
It was just a couple years ago.
Yep.
Like that, her performance was the best part of that movie because that's exactly what it was. I felt like she was just having a conversation, just like being a pal to Annette Bening, and Annette Bening was good, but Jodie Foster was there.
Yeah.
She was there in the moment, personifying that character.
Have you seen her in True Detective?
Yes. Yeah.
She's amazing in that.
She's great in that as well. Yep. Just so naturally good. Yeah. It's just kind of what I wrote. I usually do mine, and it's like kind of like, what are my overall thoughts, pros, cons? Cons, nothing. It's well done tip to toe. Nothing is terribly graphic, but it's still super scary. It's very psycho shower scene, kind of with the killing of the guard. It was awful and bloody, but you never saw anything terrible happen. The villains weren't cartoonish. Even the guy in the prison, the prison. Not matron. What is the guy who heads the
The warden?
The warden, thank you. So I'm like, female is a matron, what's the male? Warden. He wasn't cartoonish, but he was a jerk. He was a sexist, misogynistic, kind of jerk who loved his power. And I loved that Scott Glenn did not come on to her. This was about, hey, here's a really good, talented recruit I want on my team. This was not about gender power play.
Yeah. One other thing, and this goes back again to the pacing, the information being given out, it's almost every time, just as you're about to really be like, hey, I kind of like this Hannibal guy, he's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And then, boom, no, something horrible.
Oh, he's a serial killer who eats people, that's right.
I forgot all about that.
Because he's super charming.
He is very charming.
Super charming.
He's also proven over and over, he's a very intelligent and intuitive kind of person. So yeah, every time you're like, oh, I kind of think, oh, fuck.
At the end, you're rooting for him or you're rooting for the warden. There's a little bit, it's like, oh, well, yeah, that might be interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I was very happy, and I did save this one for the last, just to be on the safe side, because I was either going to go out on a high note or I was going to go out on a low note, and so I saved this one for last, and I really did enjoy it once again, and I'm good for probably another 10 years.
I am fine if I never see it again, which is too bad because it's a great movie, but I feel like I've seen it, I get all of the surprises, and I'm good.
All right, so we did, of course, mention that Silence of the Lambs. Do you have anything else, by the way?
I got nothing. We're good.
Silence of the Lambs did win. We already did this, so I know that you agree that Silence of the Lambs
and
should.
I know that you agree Silence of the Lambs should have won.
But even when we did it the first time, we both were able to accurately guess that. It is by far the best out of these 5 films. Nobody else even came close.
Yeah, and I think in another year it would be super strong as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So there you go. Do the
All right.
liking, subscribing. Sorry, this one's a little shorter, not as bantery as normal because that's the second time. So see ya.